Hi there, these comments are for LL and I am Michael from BetterTOEFLScores.com. Free, high quality TOEFL lessons, and thank you for doing your integrated speaking practice. You're one of my TOEFL speaking bootcamp course students, SWA. And let's go ahead and listen to your practice test now. So let me get set up here. So I have the integrated rubrics right here. And I also have your practice test. So let's see how you did on this. I think this is integrated speaking, right?
The reading passage explains an academic concept called subliminal perception, which is basically a perception of a visual or auditory stimuli that occurs without our awareness.
Okay.
The professor in the lecture gives an example to further illustrate the idea. In his example, he described an experiment that done on two groups watching TV and experiencing a visual stimuli of a picture that lasts less than 1 second and therefore they weren't aware of. Since one group saw an angry boy and the other group saw a happy boy, when they saw the third picture that they were aware of and last longer, with a boy without any face expression, they described the boy's personality differently. The group with the angry boy described his personality negatively, while the group with the happy boy described his personality positively.
And that kind of illustrates the subliminal perception idea, right? Make that circle near the end of your response. Kind of connect it back to that definition that you've already put forward in the beginning of your response. Okay, integrated speaking. I don't know. I think you had some delivery problems. I think partly rhythm, partly tone. I look at those as being different. Sentence rhythm is a combination of the stressed and the unstressed words when you speak. So determiners, auxiliary verbs, and prepositions typically don't receive a lot of stress. Then the nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and verbs have more stress. So I think you can work on that a little bit. You also need to work on your tone. Sometimes it takes effort. It takes some effort to understand you. You don't want me to say that. Because if you look at up here, addresses but may. Speech is generally clear but exhibits minor difficulties with pronunciation, may require some listener effort at times. Okay, let's listen to your practice test one more time. And I'm going to kind of break it up. Let's see how you did in the beginning, and we'll kind of go from there. And
the reading passage explains an academic
the reading passage explains
concept called subliminal perception, which is basically a perception of a
which specifically is a blah 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 or subliminal perception, comma a. You could use in a positive there or an adjective clause either way.
Visual or auditory stimuli that occurs without our awareness. The professor in the lecture gives an example to further illustrate the idea.
Okay, so that kind of gives purpose. It shows how the listening passage it kind of fits with the reading, so you're kind of integrating it, if you will.
In his example, he described an experiment that done.
No, in this example, let's see, we'll look at that again.
The idea. In his example, he described an experiment that.
Now, it's not quite clear what you're saying there. In this example, the professor describes, right? Blah, blah, blah.
On two groups watching TV and experiencing a visual stimuli of a picture that lasts less than 1 second and therefore they weren't aware of.
That lasted less than a second. So I think there you need to use a past tense verb.
Less than 1 second and therefore the picture that lasts less than.
That lasted less than a second. So if you're not quite sure about the ED and when to create that additional syllable at the end of the word, go to my lessons on syllable division and grammatical word endings, and that'll show you kind of the phonological rules of when the ed is a d, when the ed is a t, and then when the ed is pronounced as an additional syllable.
In 1 second, and therefore they weren't aware of, since one group saw an angry boy and the other group saw.
And how about this? How about they weren't, at least, how about consciously aware of the ad? Maybe that's better because they were aware of it, but not obviously or consciously aware. They could still see it in their brain, but they were aware of it more in an unconscious sense.
And a happy boy, when they saw the third picture,
And I think by saying the unconsciously aware of it, that's important to put that in there because that ties back to what's called subliminal. Subliminal perception is you're not consciously aware of something happening, but you're still aware of it.
they were aware of and last longer, with a boy without any face expression that described the boy's
The boy without any facial expression.
personality differently. The group with the angry boy described his personality negatively, while the group with the happy boy described his personality positively.
Now, sometimes you're either missing words or not pronouncing them very clearly, so it does make it a little harder to understand what you're saying. So, if I go back to the rubrics here, I'm putting you in the 2 range on this one. I'm going to say 2.5 to 3. I'm going to put you maybe 19 to 20 points out of 30 on this. I think you had a combination of problems with both delivery and also language use.